Mortal Kombat 1 has been a game that I have been excited about for quite some time, ever since it was revealed. What was it, last year it was revealed? Or maybe it was even earlier in this year. And I have been ecstatic. Everything we've seen so far has been, well, it was really good looking, and it seemed like a real step in the right direction. Well, I guess maybe a step in a not so much in the right direction, but a step in like in a direction that was going to be even better than before. Because Mortal Kombat 11, 9, even 10 are pretty good. I think 10 struggles a lot in a lot of different ways, but 11 was great, and 9 is still probably my favorite out of the franchise. So Mortal Kombat 1, I was really hoping was going to rise above the other ones and really show its stuff. The graphics, just to start off, I mean, they did a great job with the graphics. I mean, what can you say? I mean, the brutalities, the fatalities, the fatal blows, all the different move sets of the characters, their facial animations, everything looks fantastic. Unless you're playing the Switch version, which then you do run into a few problems. That's not the version that I'm reviewing though. I played this on PS5. I played through the story mode and did a couple of the side activities, and you know, I was relatively satisfied with my experience. Let's talk about the story mode because that's where I've spent most of my time, and that's where I usually spend a lot of my time with the Mortal Kombat games, and even Injustice too. Like I always go for the story instead of one-on-one fighting. And even though I like to get into the nitty gritty of that stuff, it's the story is really what holds me and allows me to enjoy the mechanics more in my for me personally. So the story takes place after the events of 11, which sees Shang Tsung and Liu Kang fighting over the hourglass, and at the end of that game you can actually choose who wins the fight. And the Mortal Kombat 1 starts off with the Liu Kang winning the fight, which you would think go, oh, okay, so they chose that ending. And right away, there's Liu Kang's made like this perfect world, and everyone's just kind of living in it. And then all of a sudden, things start getting meddled with inside of his perfect world, and characters start, like Shang Tsung in Liu Kang's world is like a snake oil salesman, but a character who looks very strangely close to Kronika. Tells him that he's meant for greater things and teaches him true magic. Same thing happens with Quan Chi, who is like a miner in a cave or something like that, and he gets lifted up and whatever. So things start going haywire, and I think about like how Liu Kang set up this world, and he strongly nerfed characters who were big in the other Mortal Kombat games. Even um, the guy from Mortal Kombat X gets some pomp and circumstance. I forget his name right now. He had like the two horns coming out of his head. I can't remember his name right now for some reason. But the way he nerfed some of the characters, gave them unfulfilling lives, was like a setup for failure. Really, I mean, the opening scene of the game is Shang Tsung getting his ass beat because his miracle cure all was fake, and it's like, well, why? I mean, if Liu Kang's truly setting up all these characters, why doesn't he, do something better for these evil characters? Make them not realize that they're missing out on something in the world. And the same goes for like Baraka, who is a good guy in this game. There's actually, for the first time ever in Mortal Kombat, there is a chapter dedicated to him where you actually play as him, which I really liked. Baraka is one of my favorite characters in the game, or I mean, sorry, in the series. And what Liu Kang does is, like, the Tarkatans are. It's not just a people anymore. They're like. They're like disease ridden, and like they're losing their minds and they're gonna die. And Baraka, for some reason, has not yet. He's like, for some reason I live this curse and whatever. It's like, Liu Kang, you made this universe. You could have made it so that this never existed, or at least like it was just like the other games where Tarkatans were just a race of people, and and they were dying slow, like dying as they did things. So yeah, I don't understand the whole setup for the Liu Kang universe. Like he did good stuff here and there, like having Sindel be a good queen instead of an evil queen, and having Shao Kahn be like a general, so he still feels fulfilled for being a general and fighting in wars, and etc. etc. So the story itself, I was fine with it for the most part. They had to reintroduce every single character in the series, and they did that thing again where they used characters who are not in the game originally, like Quan Chi. You fight him a few times. Same thing with Ermac. They are both in the Wave 1 of DLC, but it's weird that they would give them such prominent roles in the campaign, yet not include their characters in the base roster. It's one of those things that has been happening with Mortal Kombat since Mortal Kombat X, when they had like Baraka and Rain and Tanya all in that game and having their own movesets and stuff like that, but they were not playable until later on when DLC came around. Then they were completely retooled. Same thing happened in 11. I was very upset that the the robot guys they had nothing going on. They had characters mapped out in the game, but you couldn't play as them. And you had to wait until I think it was called Tribot or something like that, came out in the DLC wave. I think it was the final one, where all three characters were combined into one robot. And it's just it's one of those things. It's like I like, why do you do that? Why do you completely map out a character and whatever, and then put them behind a paywall, or put them behind a later update or a later DLC? It just doesn't make any sense, especially in the terms of Ermac. I mean, Ermac is like the punching bag from Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat X. You fight him so often in that game, and then you're fighting him like so often in this one too. Like almost at the halfway point, he gets introduced, and you fight him like almost constantly in every single chapter up until some events transpire. So it's just one of those things. It's like, you're so close. You're so close to making this just such a really great campaign, rivaling Mortal Kombat 9's, but you just don't get there, and it's unfortunate, because I want this game to have the best campaign. I want it to be the best Mortal Kombat game, but for me personally, it doesn't reach the heights of 9, and it definitely doesn't reach the heights of 11. It is better than X, I will give it that, but right now it's just floating under 11, which I wasn't a huge fan of 11, but I still thought the campy story was fun, and even though Kano was an enemy that was just the cannon fodder in that game, it still was fun to go through the campaign and do all the different side activities. But Mortal Kombat 1, the story, it's just like, it's so exposition heavy for the first like half of the game. They introduce all the characters, they introduce the new characters, and every single character has to tell their entire backstory as soon as they come on screen. Even Ermac, the dude made of ghosts, he appears, and immediately the first line he utters, without even being asked who he is or what he is, he's like, "I am Ermac, a collection of souls that from the living trees," or whatever. And it's like, okay, who asked? you know. And then there's like, it happens so often, like Natara, as soon as she appears in the game, she clashes with one of the characters and she's like, "I'm a vampire," and blah 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 blah. It's like, okay, I like the exposition, but don't dump it like so regularly when a character appears on screen. It starts all the way at the beginning with Liu Kang. I'm sorry, not Liu Kang. With Raiden and Kung Lao, where as soon as their discussion starts talking, as soon as they start talking, they're just explaining their entire backstory, and I get it. Like, obviously, this is a new world and that Liu Kang is built, so we kind of need context for a lot of things. But there's some characters who are the same, and they didn't really change. And it's really weird how, one of the weaker points of Mortal Kombat usually is the writing, and this one just fits that shoe. It's just the writing is pretty bad throughout the entirety of the script. And to kind of like really push it home, Megan Fox, no hate towards her at all. Oh, no hate towards her at all. But yeah, her performance is just so dry and flat in this game, and they made a huge spectacle of like, oh, Megan Fox is in the game. She's playing Natara. We used her face, we used her face and her voice and blah 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 blah. It's like that's great, but was this the right choice? No. She really drags the experience down quite a lot, in my opinion. I know she's not on screen too often, and sometimes all she does is like the guttural. Well, I guess Megan Fox doesn't do them, but another voice actress does the guttural screams and stuff like that, and that sounds fine. But it's those moments when she's like saying a couple lines in a row or a one-off line, and it sounds like she doesn't have context, or well, one she's not a voice actor. I think that's the main problem. You put her into a role that she really hasn't been in before. How many times has Megan Fox done voice acting in her life? I would say that the number would be on a single hand. Maybe less than 5. And I don't recall anyone ever praising Megan Fox for her voice acting. So even though, like, yeah, it's a cool get, and she obviously has had a long career, successful career, but this was just it was just a bad decision, in my opinion. And then, I don't blame Megan Fox, even though her performance is bad. I don't blame her, because it could have been the directing. It could have been, how maybe she was just put into a sound booth with the lines given to her and she didn't have any context for them. Maybe they didn't push her hard enough to get out the different things that they needed to get out of her, and that's more on like a directing standpoint or whatever. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like you could have not. You could have gotten a real voice actor or actress, I mean, and you would have been fine. But instead, they chose to get a big name, probably pay them an exorbitant amount of money, just for them to be one of the weakest characters in the entire game. It's unfortunate, but it's true. The one redeeming quality that this campaign has, and I enjoyed, like I said before, I enjoyed the campaign as a whole enough, but the one truly redeeming part of this game is that ending. There is a point where this game just like goes completely off the rails in a good way, and they just went crazy with it. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I am going to spoil a few things right now, so skip ahead like a minute or so, to skip the story spoilers. I will give you a countdown: 3, 2, 1. Skip ahead about a minute. But there's a point where the two worlds of Shang Tsung and Liu Kang combine, and then they realize that, oh my god, there's like an infinite amount of parallel universes that we can really play around with. And what they do is they combine characters' movesets together for this big bombastic final climb up a tower. And throughout that, there's just like these really crazy, like Shao Kahn mixed with Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage mixed with Melina or whatever. There's just so many of these really cool and interesting combinations. Obviously, characters that you will never see again or use, but it was still such a cool final climb up that tower. All the kids from Mortal Kombat X appeared at one point, and they all just get like killed in 2 seconds, meaning that like, yeah, they definitely regretted making half of those characters for Mortal Kombat X, but yeah, that's one of those things. It's like, yeah, that was such a cool, like, it's such a cool ending, and like the ending of the game is really just up there. Like, that is one of my favorite endings in any Mortal Kombat ever. And it's unfortunate that it's in this game that is just kind of like, I wanted more from it, from the story especially. Let's move on to the combat, spelled with a K. I don't know if I'm just not recalling correctly. I mean, I played a lot of Mortal Kombat 9, X, and 11. I played them religiously for the years that they came out, and even Injustice and stuff like that. I played those games a lot, and I don't know if I'm just not, playing the game correctly, but I find that just kind of doing regular combos and stuff like that is just it doesn't feel great, and the new system for using your burn ability is just kind of lame, in my opinion. Like, instead of pressing the burn button during a move to kind of change it up. You have to press it as soon as you press the other button to initiate the move, which doesn't feel great in my opinion. And it also like it makes me kind of have to relearn the game too, which is kind of annoying. I really rather would have those burn moves that change up the move mid go, because I think that adds a little bit more strategy to what you're doing. As it stands, throughout most of the campaign and most of the towers and stuff that I did, I was just kind of spamming special moves with the burn meter, because it just made the game a little bit monotonous. All you do is you spam those special moves, and I didn't really use combos at all. I didn't really press the punch, kick, slide. I didn't press any of those buttons too often, simply because I didn't feel the need to, because the game, like, it almost doesn't want you to use those smaller moves, because the special moves are just like so good. And yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I don't remember the game being so stiff in the other Mortal Kombats. I really feel like the combat in this one is sorely lacking in so many different places. And there's some characters that you play as during the campaign that I completely did not gel with, and they were it was agonizing to get through the campaign moments with them. And the nice thing is that most of the characters I did find enjoyment in using. Liu Kang and Havoc, especially. I know Havoc, you don't play as him in the campaign itself, but I really enjoyed playing as Havoc in like the towers and stuff like that. I felt like he was a really good character. I really liked him. But once again, that's only because I was just using his special moves. I really wasn't using his combos. And that's mostly because I feel like stringing together different moves that aren't linked to an official combo on the move list, it just doesn't work. And in other games, I felt like it did work. You could kind of create your own combo chains if you wanted to. And in this one, it feels much more stiff in the fact that you have to do square, triangle, square if you want to do a combo. There's no other way to do one. You can't do square O square. You can't do square X square. It has to be square, triangle, square, or one of the other predetermined ones that we've mapped out, which it limits your gameplay a lot, especially when you are kind of like, oh, I want to try to change things up, use a few different moves here and there, and they just don't link to anything else. It's rather disappointing in my opinion. And I know that kind of makes me sound like I hated this game or something, but I mean I still was fine with it. It's just one of those things that was really nagging me throughout the entire playthrough of the game, and going into the and doing the different parts of the game. And I just, there's just some things that I really wish they hadn't changed from those other ones. And I understand trying to evolve the series and moving it to be a bit different, but I can definitely foresee in Mortal Kombat 13 or whatever they're going to call it, I can definitely see them going back to using how the burn meters how they did, and changing up so that the moves flow together better. That would be great. I totally forgot to mention the cameo characters. A lot of them, I mean, you have a few different moves they can do with them. If you do like a forward throw, they'll come out and do that. If you do a fatal blow, they'll start you off and then you take over. They all have their own like fatalities and stuff that they can do. And I really enjoyed a lot of them. And a lot of the cameo characters in the campaign I'm sorry, a lot of the characters that are in the game itself aren't in the campaign for some reason, like Jax and Kano, and there's a whole slew of them that just didn't really show up in the campaign. I was kind of disappointed in that fact too. Like, why didn't we have like Jax appear in a cutscene, or why didn't we have Sonya appear? Or why wasn't Kano in this at all? It doesn't make sense. And I guess it's mostly because hey, they just didn't design character models around that stuff. And I mean, there is a part where like those characters kind of show up, but you can tell that they're just like mapped over, or they're just regular character models. They don't have anything special going on. So other things you can do in the game, like the invasion mode and the towers. I mean, the towers are the towers. They're the same in almost any Mortal Kombat game. You go through a collection of fights or unlimited fights or whatever, or different challenges, and you see like a ending for the character. So, for one character like Havoc, you see the ending, like a new ending for his character, blah blah blah. And then the invasions mode is actually really fun. I was really enjoying my time doing it. You kind of get you pick a character that you want to use, and you go through a series of fights and mini games in order to get through this like grid like layout of well, the first part is Johnny Cage's house, and there's like portals opening up that is bringing fighters in from all across the universes. So, I was playing Havoc, and you kind of go through and you beat up characters as you go along, and you open up doors, and you defeat like bosses and stuff like that. And I found the mode to be very enjoyable. I liked the vibe that they were going for, and I enjoyed what they were doing with that. And I thought that it was just a really a good time. I thought that was great. So in the end, I am a bit disappointed with Mortal Kombat 1. I mean, it's just on the list of games that I was excited for and didn't really deliver throughout this year. And this one just kind of seats right into that because I wasn't like super thrilled with the gameplay mechanics, and I thought the story was fine throughout the most part, but it did end in a bombastic way. But there was just some weird line deliveries and explanations, and of course, Nitara was just poorly voice acted, and yeah, I mean, it all concludes in like a really good and bombastic way, but the lead up to that is a bit drab, just kind of like run the by the numbers, I guess you would say. Like I said, it ends in a great way, and I think that if they did more of that, it would probably have been better. But and then it also has the same problem with like there's there's in-game currency in this still, and there's characters who show up in the campaign who aren't playable yet. Just kind of like annoying things that have been with the series for a couple games now. Like Mortal Kombat 1, I don't think they can ever outdo Mortal Kombat. I'm sorry, Mortal Kombat 9. I don't think they can ever outdo Mortal Kombat 9 with its roster. Like it just had so many characters, and the DLC fighters were also really cool. Kratos for the PS4 or the PS3 version. Like, how can you really do better than that? And the story was like bow 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 all the way through. It was just such a good story, and it's almost like that was the magnum opus, and the rest are just trying to live up to the greatness of Mortal Kombat 9, which is unfortunate because I really was hoping that Mortal Kombat 1 was going to get there, but it just did not. And even though it sounds like I'm really, really not liking the game, I did end up, I still enjoyed it. I think that, even though I didn't enjoy the new combat stuff, I think that the combat is still fun at times. And once you find the character you gel with, that's kind of going to be the one that you stick with for the rest of your play time. But yeah, all in all, yeah, I think I'm going to land on a 4 out of 5 for this one. It's closer to a 3.5 than anything else. And maybe after playing it some more, maybe it'll lower, maybe it'll just stay the same. I don't know. But right now I landed on a 4. And that was the final review for Mortal Kombat 1.